Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. And I'm delighted to welcome some more guests to the stage. The choreographer, Rosie Kay, and the actor, James Dreyfus. Hello. How are you?
Mr. Turf.
Hello, Mr. Turf. There we go. Is that my nickname, then?
It beats Mussolini.
It does, doesn't it? Thank you both so much for coming. Really appreciate this. So, we're going to start because we've been talking a lot tonight about cancel culture and the fact that it doesn't really exist, you know, and people shouldn't worry about it. But Rosie, of course, you created this incredible dance company, award-winning company, incredible shows, and then something went wrong. Do you want to tell us what happened to you?
Yeah, I've got a terrible story, really. So, in the privacy of my own home, I got into a debate around sex and gender. I'd been 2 years into researching a dance theatre production of Orlando. And I'd been working with an LGBT group, book club, I'd been working with some trans people that I know that are friends, and I'd been trying to figure my way through it. And I think, like, Virginia Woolf says something really interesting about sex and gender in a really witty, funny, interesting, unusual way that could give us a way through, or another way to look at what's going on. And I had some young dancers at my house. They were doing a production of Romeo and Juliet, which was about to open in 10 days' time in a really huge, big stage. And when I told them that's what my next production was and that I'd be auditioning soon, they told me that I had to employ a trans person. And I said, well, at this point, I don't know. It's got to be somebody extraordinary. I mean, it could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be, trans, non-binary. I don't know. It's somebody that's got to be believable, and they've got to be an amazing dancer.
Yeah.
No, this person had to be trans. And I was like, yeah, but, I mean, did they start male and then become female? But, you know, what about themselves? What about their own? I mean, what do they think they... Anyway, escalated to the point of kind of, like, really quite heated. I believe in the reality of sex. It descended really quickly. I thought it would blow over because I think it's, like, fair enough. You can have your views, I can have my views, but it's a production, and maybe the production is the place that we should be putting all this energy. But my board got involved. They put me through 2 separate massive investigations, including using my own company funds. And because I'd stepped down as a director for it to become a charity, I no longer had any rights to hold on to my own company. And we were a regularly funded organisation.
So this is incredible because, you know, well, the ingratitude of it is something else. You've employed these dancers, young dancers, up and coming, presumably.
Also offering work through COVID. I really felt a responsibility. I'd made a solo show through COVID based on my own lived experience as a female dancer, as a woman, as a mother, as a victim of sexual assault inspired by J.K. Rowling. It got 4 or 5 stars. It had done really well. I wanted to make sure that young dancers, some of them hadn't even had their graduation shows because of COVID. I was putting them on the main stage, you know, immediately. I wanted to sort of, like, have some hope right through that terrible period that we'd be up and running when the theatres open again, because there is a problem, there's a dearth of good productions out there right now because nobody's been making productions through COVID. So we've got a real issue right now that theatres are facing real serious hardships, and we need work to be ready to go.
But what kind of mindset, and of course I'm not asking you to speculate what other people are thinking, but, you know, if I were a young dancer, which I used to be, well, I did ballet. Anyway, I can still do a changement. So, you know, if you have these young dancers, and they, you know, if I were employed, I wouldn't, and I was invited over to my boss's house for dinner, the first thing I wouldn't do is berate them about who their casting choices should be, and then have a go at them at their own party, and then try and get them sacked. It's weird, isn't it?
When you've joined a company who, over 25 years, my reputation's been built on making strong political work from a feminist female perspective.
Right.
You know, like, and the body and a woman's perspective is key to all of my work, but I've also looked at brainwashing in cults. Yeah. So that's really interesting. I think there's something, you said it a while ago, and I think it's something really interesting, like this whole relationship between, like, apprentice and master. So when I was young, I was still in quite an old school kind of environment of training in dance. You learnt from a master who had learnt directly from Martha Graham or from Merce Cunningham, and they handed that to you bit by bit, you know, however much you could take. You never know when, as a dancer, suddenly it'll click. There seems to be now this sense that actually teaching and directing and correcting, that in itself is some kind of act of oppression.
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's sad.
And, you know, you've been called all sorts of names and slurred, people have been absolutely horrible about it. And it's like, you know, I don't think the far right are sort of advancing their ideas through left-wing feminist dance. That would be my guess. But, James, I want to bring you in now. Now, some people may be aware of what happened to you. I mean, you're a brilliant actor. You were in Gimme, 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 absolutely hilarious, Thin Blue Line, where you played a straight man.
I was thin.
Might
not be looking at the same person. Who's that with a silly moustache? Me.
But you've also been absolutely fabulous and an incredible career. And you were playing this role in these Doctor Who audio
books. Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to tell us what happened there?
Well, I was asked to play the Master, which I don't know about Doctor Who, so I used to turn up, do the Master, record it, and I did about 6 or 7 recordings. And then, of course, I signed the letter condemning rape and death threats to J.K. Rowling, which I thought was a kind of nice, good thing to do, but obviously I made a critical error there. I also signed a letter asking Stonewall for a respectful debate at the time when they were screaming no debate, together, only together. And then I found my name being missed off. They would release the CDs, my name would be gone. And I'd call them up and I'd call my agents and say, can you just look into this? It's a bit funny. And then my photographs started disappearing. And then they did a collection of all the people they've ever played the Master and left me off it. So that's when I rang my agent and I said, look, something's definitely up. Can you just call them? And she did, and she called me back and she said, yeah, well, there is a problem. Apparently, the moment I'd signed the letter, Big Finish put up one of their pinned tweets was, we do not endorse transphobia in any form. So basically what they'd done was, behind my back, accused me of being transphobic. And without a phone call, an email, a letter, nothing. I would have had respect for them if they'd said, look, come in, talk to us face-to-face, we have a problem with this, what is your problem? And I could explain my position. Well, that didn't happen. So I was phased out. And the last recording that I ever did was with Tom Baker, and there was a big picture of the Master on the front, and I thought, oh, how are they going to deal with this, I wonder? Well, it's all in shadow, and it's Mr. Zelgado, who originally played the Master. So when you talk about erasure, this is literal erasure.
Well, that feels quite Stalinist. Just literally kind of amending history.
Well, it is. And I haven't been in touch with these people at all. I just find myself... I should have originally tackled it, but then I thought, actually, no. Because it was, only a job I didn't really care about, but that's not the point.
No, it's not the point.
The point is that the mud had stuck, the message was out there, and when we talk about cancel culture, maybe Mr. Graham Norton is correct in saying it's the wrong word. Maybe it's we're out to destroy your lives forever, you bastard, forever and ever and ever culture. Because... Because, as Rosie says, the process is the punishment.
Yeah. But it's interesting with both of you because you've both, been friends with trans people for years and years and years. And, I speak to a lot of the feminists who have never been anti... What do these activists think? That all of a sudden these left-wing, pro-trans people overnight have just all decided that they hate trans people? I mean, it's so ridiculous.
They feebly get round it by... you're simply saying, well, you're right-wing. I noticed the other day on Twitter you were called right-wing.
Oh, they call me that all the time, yeah.
Yeah, right-wing, and when you point out that we're talking, about people like, predominantly left-wing women fighting this fight, it's just another thing that they avoid. They've given no evidence of J.K. Rowling, no evidence at all, none of anybody else who's been under this witch hunt, they can provide anything else. So it seems to me that we're dealing with some seriously crazy people who are not in reality at all. Well, it's mostly online.
And there's something about the viciousness with which they express themselves. I mean, you get a lot of it as well, but you're very good at handling it online, James, because you're very funny. And
but I cry in the corner afterwards.
But is there something, Rosie, do you think there's any particular reason why? I mean, you know, these are the people who often will say things like, be kind and, you know, love wins, you know, while they're, you know, calling for people to die in a grease fire.
Yeah, it's really strange. And I've recently, somebody tried to describe me as fascist, and I actually just got in touch with them and said, you know, like, half my family were exterminated by the Nazis. Like, I do find that offensive when all I'm actually advocating is freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression.
I don't think the fascists were for that.
They don't work for that.
No,
right.
no.
And then I think there's also there's a culture of, like we were talking about social media, weren't you, earlier? I mean, this is like our Gothenburg Press, and what happened after the Gothenburg Press was 20 years of massive social unrest. Feudal system collapsed, huge economical differences, you know, the Reformation, where like 90% of British art was wiped out and destroyed. We're having some sort of reformation going on at the moment. The problem is we're going to look at allowing our children to use the internet a bit like letting kids smoke fags. I really think we're going to look and we're going to go, why on earth did we let our children, an entire generation, grow up online in echo chambers together, grooming each other and pushing each other and giving each other massive mental health disorders? We need to get back to kind of arts in school, playing, comedy, bodies. Because we're not happy humans unless we're fully here and we're fully engaged and we're fully in our bodies.
Can I ask James, what do you think about the implications for the arts? I mean, all of the things that Rosie's describing there, you know, my feeling is that it has been pretty disastrous. Do you have any thoughts?
I think it's catastrophic at the moment, utterly catastrophic. I mean, let's just give one example, shall we? Let's discuss Terry Gilliam's Into the Woods. That was due to go to the Old Vic. Now, it seems to me this is a case of the tail wagging the dog. This is the people that work here, all younger, who I reckon turned around and said, we will not work with Terry Gilliam. Yes, but hang on, you have to understand that Terry Gilliam was part of Monty Python, so he was actually making, I don't care, it's not funny, and we will not work with a bigot. But they capitulated.
Yeah.
Whereas what should have happened is sit down, shut up, he's a very well-respected director, we're having him here.
And so why is that? Why is it that in the case of Rosie's company, why would people on the board or the people in charge listen to people who are just young, powerless, or not powerless, clearly? I mean, they have all the power here.
And I've got to say, I saw Into the Woods at Bath Theatre Royal. Well done, Bath Theatre Royal. It's absolutely fabulous because it is all about the horror of fairy tales and why we need to tell children fairy tales to warn them of the dangers of predators out there. And then the second half is the adult nightmare of fairy tales, which I thought, God, I'm living in this right now.
Yeah.
I think there could be like a new economy where really good and entrepreneurial impresarios and producers go, hang on, this isn't what the audience want. But we're always like, there are lots of gatekeepers, there are curators, there are programmers, there are directors that have executive positions and executive salaries. They make the decisions, and they genuinely are more scared of their own staff and complaints against them than they are about safekeeping and guarding both the arts and artists, because it's personal as well.
But also, I mean, artists are often eccentric. They are. I mean, they're often not very nice sometimes, you know, so artists...
Do you know what I think we should do to solve this problem? Is put all these young woke people in a room and have Brian Blessed talk to them for 3 hours. They'd learn what reality is pretty bloody quickly if we did that.
Well, with that, I'd like to open it out to our audience, if anyone has any questions at all. There's a lady there in the blue top. Thank you.
Hi. So I remember years ago listening to a debate, and not to bring up something someone said years ago, but where Ella Whelan argued that horrible name-calling and vitriol is a fact of online debating and part of free speech, and that we should brush it off because it's not real life. And I feel like we're kind of going against that here by talking about rape and death threats along with like the very real cancellation you've both faced. So I'm asking what has changed in our view. Like, do we now think that vitriol should be something we kind of go against,
No.
or should we still have it be part of free speech and online debate?
There is a difference. I mean, there's always a difference. You know, I mean, people, you know, have accused me of having sex with my dog. I mean, recently, and last night they were dancing on the grave of Robbie Coltrane publicly, and nobody batted an eyelid. I think we're at that stage now where it's not just vitriol. We've gone into, you know, something seriously disturbed. You can always mute them. I hear a lot when Andrew blocks someone on Twitter. They say, see, he's for free speech, but he's just blocked me. Well, yes, because he doesn't have to listen to you. Do you see the difference? So
I think that was exactly my point. Like, why don't we just block them instead of kind of also, I guess, taking it personally?
But I think no one is saying that the people who are saying that it's great that Robbie Coltrane has died because he's an evil bigot or whatever, no one's saying they should be censored. They can say all that stuff, you know, but we are criticising it, saying it's abhorrent and appalling, and they reveal themselves who they are, I think. What do you think, Rosie?
Well, I think for me, it's moved beyond there. It's people directly contacting anyone that's even witch adjacent. You know, if I'm the witch, they want to burn me. If anyone even stands next to me, they'll get attacked as well. And you end up feeling responsible for that. People are kind of like really targeting everything around you, so that sort of that cancellation just continues with you. And it feels to me a little bit like an integrity test on so many levels, but not just for yourself and the strength of your own character. It's for everyone around you. And then you can see the people that will drop you, and that's really sad, and it doesn't get easier because I'm not a hardened person. You know, in order to kind of go into a studio and dance around in middle age, you have to be quite, you know, childlike in some respects. You have to stay trusting, you have to stay innocent, you have to stay curious, you have to stay hopeful. And so you don't want to develop a rhino skin because that would destroy your own art, and they'd have won. So it's finding a way to kind of like have hope for the future. Like I say, I really do think there might be a new economy coming. I think people are going to get sick of this, and we need to be ready to offer things so that we can talk about this stuff, because this shutting down is not going to help anything.
We've got time for one more question. One more question, just there at the back.
Not a question. Just maybe next time we talk about cancel culture, we should talk about reprisals culture, because that's what it seems to mean. It's not just that you are cancelled from your speech. You are run out of town, run out of your job, run out of polite society. So I think we need to make it clear just how serious the measures are by people who want to censor free speech. They favour reprisals of every sort, and that's something we should never go along with.
I think like the artist needs to be an outsider. They need to be someone outside of society. So sort of feeling ostracised and paranoid, it probably comes with the territory a little bit. These issues, Graham said it, J.K. Rowling says it, these issues are so important, they're more important than me and my career and my livelihood, actually. And we really need to stand up and kind of like make sure our rights are protected.
James, are you optimistic? Absolutely, yeah. James? Final thought to you, James. I mean, are you optimistic that we can move beyond this and that we can restore, the...
Fundamentally, I am optimistic for the future, but I think there's going to be one hell of a battle when it goes, when we're all on that hill we've promised ourselves we're going to die on. Yeah. I think there's going to be one hell of a battle. These people are not going to capitulate. They're not going to suddenly say we were wrong. They're not going to apologise. I think they will escalate, and I think we have to just prepare ourselves and keep going and keep debating and keep it talking and keep it reasonable and calm and amusing, and battle on through. And eventually, common sense will come round. I firmly believe that, yeah.
Amen. Thank you.